Hi, this video is to update our videos on how to use Excel for our quantitative reasoning course. So we have this page of examples. It's currently on page 64 of the text in section 8, where we show a snapshot of how to find some basic descriptive statistics like mean, median, mode, percentiles using Excel. So let me pull up a spreadsheet that's similar to the values shown here. Okay, make that a little bit bigger. So I have my data already put in the spreadsheet for me. The first thing I'm going to do is to add just some data labels. Okay, so I skipped ahead. All I've done so far is typed in the labels. I haven't actually done any calculations yet. If you're really new to Excel, you may notice here that my labels go slightly out of the column. If you put your mouse in between the D and E here and get this cursor with the arrows, you can make that bigger. Or if you double click the bar, it will actually auto size. Just some basic formatting tips for you there. Okay, so we're going to start with the mean. And we want to tell Excel to do this calculation for us. So I never want you to grab your calculator and start doing things when you're working with Excel. Excel is a calculator, so that's what we want to use. So first I have to tell Excel I'm doing a calculation. One of the most important things here is to type an equals sign. Equals, so what's another word for mean? In common terms, we call a mean an average. So as I start typing, you'll notice a menu pops up giving me some sample pre-built functions in Excel. So I can either finish typing the word average, or I can double click on this. And then with our functions, we always have parentheses. So Excel is kind of asking me, you want an average of what here? So I could type the numbers, 8770, and Excel would find the average. But what I really want to do is use cell references with all my functions. I want to tell Excel where the values I'm interested in are located. So our values actually start in cell A2, and they go through cell A11. So to represent that 2, T-O, through, you put a colon. So that's right next to your L key, shift, and then get the colon. And then I'll say through A11. Close my parenthesis, and Excel very helpfully highlights what we're taking an average of. And I hit enter, and there's my average. Okay, the rest of these are going to be very similar. So for median, I type equals. I start typing median. Again, you can either finish typing or double click on the median option. You don't have to type A2 through A11. Sometimes it's more convenient to take your mouse and highlight the data, depending on what type of data set that you're working with. So notice I highlighted the data there. Excel shows me, are these the one I want? Yes. I'll just hit enter. There's my median. Okay, guess what I typed for mode? Okay, now you can see there's a couple options for mode. We use what Excel would consider an outdated version. That's why it has a little yellow triangle here. It's like, oh, do you want this old-fashioned mode? That's totally fine with us for our course. So I'm just going to use plain old mode. Now, if you quickly glance at the data here, 87 occurs a few times, so 87 is our mode. Okay, I think the mistake a lot of my students make is, for instance, with the minimum. They look at the scores and they say, well, clearly I see that 65 is the minimum, so my students just type 65 here. Okay, the problem with that is that works for this set of data, but what we really want to do is use our minimum function. Because what if this data was for a class and somehow this data changes? The teacher says, oh, that isn't a 65 anymore, I messed up, it should have been an 85. Okay, if I had just typed the number 65 in this cell E5, that would not change when I changed the minimum value over here. Okay, so minimum and maximum, we just use min and max. Sometimes there's not a pre-built formula for something you want to find. So certainly Excel understands all your basic mathematical add, subtract, multiply, divide, exponents. You can write your own formula with your own symbols. So that's what we do for range. So range, in a statistics sense, means the difference between the maximum value and the minimum value. So I'm going to use equals. And I know I can look and I can see in this example it's 30, but again, I don't want to type 30 here. I want Excel to find it for me and for any future values that I have in cells A2 through A11. So what I can do here is, since I've already found the maximum and minimum, I will simply use cell references for where those are located. So it should be the maximum, which in my sheet is E6, subtract the minimum, which in my sheet is cell E5. So like I said, you can build your own formulas, just adding, subtracting, multiplying, anything like that. Okay, percentiles are a little bit tricky. There's actually no one fixed definition for how to find percentiles, so that causes an issue. We have a certain way we do it by hand in our class for small sets of data. So what you're going to find is that for this small set of data, Excel is going to do a very complicated calculation where it takes this small set of data, breaks it up into 100 pieces, and then finds the percentile it's looking for. So you're not going to get the same value that you get by hand, but Excel does have percentile functions. So again, I'll type my equals. I'll start typing, and look, there's a big list here. Percentile X, percentile Inc., and we're just going to use the old-fashioned percentile. The EXC and INC refers to whether or not you kind of include the endpoints. So like I said, the one that we're going to use is not going to necessarily match what we would get if we were using our by hand method, but that's okay for our purposes. Okay, now with this function, I don't know if you've noticed so far, but as I type these functions, Excel pops up these little menus with information, and certainly you can click on these and explore them if you like. But what Excel is telling me specifically for percentiles is it needs two pieces of information. So by array, it means the set of data. So once again, A2 through A11. Then we put comma, and this K is asking us, well, which percentile do you want? Because I want the 10th percentile here, but this function just says percentile. So I want to tell Excel which percentile I want. And we are going to enter this in a decimal form. So for 10th percentile, I'm going to type 0.1, as in 10%. So there's my estimated 10th percentile, which would be really almost impossible to find by hand, so Excel is really useful for that. Okay, something I haven't shown you so far is what happens when you make a mistake. So certainly this happens to me. What if you accidentally put 10? Then Excel gives you an error here. It says num. It doesn't like that. If I click on the cell, I can actually open a help menu and maybe get some additional information to try and help me. So sometimes when you make a typo, Excel will let you know that. Okay, so let's try that percentile again. So just going to do the one that says percentile, select what I want the percentile of, and then you have to put comma and then tell it which percentile. So for 25th percentile, I'll put 0.25. And notice it doesn't matter if I put 0.25 or 0.25, Excel knows I mean the 25th percentile. And I'll do the same thing for the 50th percentile. Now, of course, 50th percentile, I should get the same answer as my median because they're the same thing. Okay, that's not the only way you can insert these functions. I just followed the book's example and typed them in, but there is a formulas menu up here. If you click on the formulas bar at the top of Excel, and you can insert functions, and you can search for functions. Like, oh, I was looking for average. Can you help me find that? So if maybe you're not sure of the name of the function. And for some of these, it is useful to it pops up this box where you can sometimes enter the information a little bit easier. So I think it's just more of a preference thing of how you like to find things. So I think for average, it's pretty simple. I didn't really need the box, but certainly I could use that. You could also add formatting to Excel, make things look a little neater. In the home menu, there's lots of formatting options. You can highlight things. That's kind of bright. You can add formatting around your cells. So add some cell styles here. gives some options. Often I just like to go into this format section and add some simple formatting, like putting some boxes around the cells. I always think looks nice. So format cells, border options. So that's certainly something you can play around with to make your projects and your homework look a little bit sharper. Okay, so I just wanted to go over some of the basics on page 64. So one of the main reasons we want to do this, again, is by using the cell references. Look what happens as I change the data. Excel recalculates all these values for me. One other thing I wanted to show. Right now I have a mode. What happens when you don't have a mode? Oops. Excel will report NA. That's totally fine. It's just saying there isn't a mode, not applicable. We just want to leave it like that. Okay, so I hope this helps clear up any issues that you may have had with using Excel. The best way to learn this is to just go out and try it.